We are learning a little bit more about the emergency funds that the president is requesting. This urgent spending request, as it's called, it calls for $14 billion in aid to respond to natural disasters that actually occurred before Hurricane Ida, as well as $6.4 billion to pay for the ongoing relocation of tens of thousands of Afghans that partnered with the United States during the war in Afghanistan. But you can bet, with reports of up to $10 billion in extra funding requests to help those post-Hurricane Ida, well, these are going to be some pretty high-popping sums. Karl Rove with us, Fox News contributor, former White House Deputy Chief of Staff, best-selling author. Very few, Karl, will stop or turn down a president who's asking for emergency funds after disaster, but more than half of this money is prior to that disaster. What do you make of it?
Well, either bad planning or an attempt to take advantage of a crisis by getting a bunch of money for other things. And I think we need to look carefully at the details of the request for monies that are not connected with this emergency. If they were legitimate expenditures for previous emergencies, then the question arises, why didn't the president and why didn't his director at FEMA alert the public and indicate that the cupboard was bare and ask Congress for the money then?
You know, the Afghanistan situation is still part of that mix. So we're out of there, but we're not out of there. The funding and all this other stuff that he's calling for, $6 billion. It's a moving target, I grant you. And all of this at a time with the controversy, and you're quite familiar, Karl, about whether the State Department is blocking Americans getting out, sticking to forms, paperwork, and all of that, or has nothing to do with it. But it's a bumpy process, and I imagine it's going to get bumpier. What do you think?
I think so. The administration doesn't think so. They've sort of basically gone to the press in what is, I think, an incredibly cynical way and said to the press, we're not going to talk about Afghanistan anymore. That's going to be over at the State Department. And we think voters are going to forget this by the 2022 election. And instead, we're going to be focused on the infrastructure package, the American Jobs Package, human infrastructure, free community college, free this, free that, because we think voters will reward us at the polls in 2022 midterms. They're incredibly cynical. They cannot avoid talking about Afghanistan. Afghanistan is going to continue to be part of our national dialogue. I was looking at a list of the members of the new government. The acting prime minister is the head of the Taliban Leadership Council. This is the group that sanctioned al-Qaeda being in Afghanistan being a safe haven for al-Qaeda and attacking the United States. The deputy prime minister is Abdul Baradar, who is the Taliban co-founder and was the Pakistanis considered him a terrorist. The prime minister has been designated a terrorist by the United Nations. The interior minister is one of the Haqqani family, which the FBI is trying to get, and there's a bounty on his head. And the defense minister is the son of the founder of the Taliban, who's now deceased, but the son is intimately tied up in this. Do we think these people are now going to say, okay, we're going to open for American tourism, and what can we do to establish a consul in the United States in order to have good diplomatic relations? And incidentally, we've got economic opportunities here. We want Western companies to come in and partner with us. No, they're going to be focused on revenge killings, and we're going to have more stories like we had in the last couple of days of a policewoman being shot in front of her family in a provincial capital by the Taliban. They're not going to be able to stop talking about it, and they ought to end the talk about this being, this political, and we're looking at it only through a political prism.
You know, we're also looking at it through a financial one, as you know, Karl, and we keep talking about leverage and the billions that we can control and freeze through our Federal Reserve and Treasury, and that the impetus to unfreeze it is that you, Taliban, have to continue helping on all of this. There's very little indication in the past that money has been an incentive for them to do much of anything, but what do you think?
Look, I don't think so either. In fact, it's a demonstration of weakness. We ought to be saying to them, that was the money that belonged to the legitimate government of Afghanistan. You overthrew it by force. That money's gone. And that would be our greatest leverage on them. Because, look, they have their own source of money. They have the illegal drug traffic, and now we have made them into the largest weapons supplier to terrorist groups in the world by leaving behind billions of dollars of equipment, small arms, artillery pieces, vehicles, hundreds of millions of rounds of ammunition. So they're going to have their own sources of money. We shouldn't be basically saying to them, hey, we got a bunch of money and you can hold us hostage for whatever you want, because as we've demonstrated already under the previous administration, we can be taken to the cleaners in negotiations, and the new administration is even more likely to be taken to the cleaners. So we got a bunch of money. Figure out ways in order to get us to give you money by providing roadblocks to becoming a normal nation and acting with respect to the lives and values of your people. I mean, this is like telling them, you know, I'm bending over, kick me, is the way the administration appears to be dealing with the Afghan government on the question of money.
You know, timing is everything too, Karl, right? I mean, here we are on the 20th anniversary. You were there. You were with President Bush at the time. Could you ever have fathomed, and we were still days away from targeting Afghanistan and the Taliban there, that they would be back in power and with a vengeance 2 decades later?
No, because we gave it to them for 20 years. Think about this. 2/3 of the people of Afghanistan are under the age of 25. So all they know is what they've seen in the last 20 years, which is a government trying to become responsive to its people, a growing economy, incredible opportunities for women that didn't exist before to get an education and to pursue a career, respect for human rights, a measure of personal liberty that they'd never seen before. And we did so for the last several years. We ended our combat role 6 years ago. Our last death was 18 months ago, and we had 2,500 people in the country, and we were able to keep the Taliban at bay by providing contractors to keep the Afghan Air Force in the air, and by, if need be, attacking the Taliban by raining hell down from above. And we unilaterally gave that up and gave the Taliban a victory, and they're celebrating in the streets of Afghanistan. The Taliban is, not ordinary people, but the Taliban is, and talking about how they have humiliated the United States of America. That will embolden our enemies and make it more likely that they will be making attacks from the safety of Afghanistan against us and our allies. Al-Qaeda struck us on September 11th. The only reason they could was that the Taliban allowed them to use Afghanistan as a refuge. In the negotiations of the previous administration, they never got the Taliban to agree to condemn Al-Qaeda. 3 times the Department of Defense under the last administration and this administration have confirmed that the Taliban and the Al-Qaeda are working hand in hand. And if we think that anything is going to happen in Afghanistan except it becomes a sanctuary for terrorist attacks on us and our allies, we're kidding ourselves.
Do you think that was a mistake, negotiating with the Taliban, even now and in the prior administration?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about it. The deputy prime minister, who really is the leader, Baradar, was in a Pakistani prison because even the Pakistanis identified him as a radical Islamist terrorist. And we were the guys, under the negotiations of the previous administration, who got the Pakistanis to let him out of prison so he could lead the Taliban negotiations. And one of his first demands is 5,000 Taliban warriors needed to be let out of Afghan jails. And in return, the Taliban would give up 1,000 Afghani hostages. And guess who a lot of those 5,000 battle-hardened Taliban warriors who were in Afghan prisons, guess where they ended up? They ended up in the attack on provincial capitals and ultimately Kabul that brought down the Afghan government. So it was a mistake, in my opinion, to negotiate. The only good thing in that agreement between the United States government and the Taliban was that the American withdrawal was supposed to be conditions-based, and one of those conditions was that they should not attack provincial capitals. But when we got rid of Bagram Air Force Base and cut our numbers down to 2,500 people, it became impossible to continue to make that a conditions-based agreement with the Taliban, because they violated the conditions, and there was no real response by our government.
Karl Rove, thank you, my friend. Very good catching up with you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.